Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this session on democracy and active youth participation. This webinar is part of the Pathways to Active Democracy project, which was co-founded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. We're here to explore how you, as young people, are not only the future, but very much the present of democratic life. Let's break this idea that democracy is only about voting every few years. Democracy is daily participation, dialogue, critical thinking, and collective action. It's about the choices we make, the conversations we start, and the initiatives we lead. By the end of this session, you'll better understand what democracy means, why youth participation matters, how young people are already leading change, and how you can get involved, locally and internationally. So let's start at the beginning. What is democracy? Democracy, the word itself, comes from Greek, which is my native language. It comprises of two words, demos, which is the people, and kratos, which is power. So it literally means power of the people. In practice, democracy is a system where people have the right to participate in decisions about how their society is governed. This can look different depending on the country, but there are some core ideas that remain. Number one, people vote in elections, and those elections need to be free and fair for everyone involved. 2, leaders are accountable, and there should be a rule of law, so that law let's go again. Number 2, leaders are accountable, and there is a rule of law, so laws apply to everyone. And there are checks and balances. There are rights and responsibilities for everyone in the society. Next up, number 3, there is a majority rule, but at the same time, there is protection for minority rights. So it's indeed that the majority has the power and gets to decide, but at the same time, there should be protection to those smaller groups of people who have different opinion, and they should be also accepted and involved. There should be freedom of speech and assembly, so people can be free to share their opinions and to gather and discuss those things in groups and fight for those opinions. And last but definitely not least, there should be pluralism. So different views, voices, identities are coexisting together, and human rights are protected. A lot of times when we think about democracy, we have in mind either direct democracy, so when we have a referendum where we decide on a really specific law and the options are to say yes or no, or representative democracy, so when we have parliaments and we vote for representatives of our groups for those parliaments that they get to decide on laws. Both of those, of course, rely on active and informed citizens. But let's go a bit deeper, because democracy isn't just the political system and those two options that we talked about right now. It's more of a way of life. It's about freedom, fairness, and social trust, so that we trust each other that we all follow certain roles, have certain responsibilities against each other. It's also about community participation. So not just voting, but really taking into account the issues and problems of the people around us and actively getting involved in that change. And also, it's about holding power accountable, whether that's in school, at work, on the streets, or even online. Being part of a democratic system means that we are informed about what the people who are representing us are doing. We have an opinion on that, and we hold them accountable. Democracy includes everything from the right and being able to protest, to disagree with the majority or with representatives, creating petitions and asking for specific steps to be taken, joining a youth council where you can be directly involved with the decisions that affect your group. So now let's check how much you have participated in democracy. I have some questions for you, and you can think whether that applies or doesn't apply to you. So, the first thing, have you ever voted in a school or a community election? Have you ever signed a petition or gone to a protest? Have you ever shared your opinion on a public issue online? If yes, that means that you've already participated in democracy, because that is exactly democracy in action. Democracy only thrives when people take part, and that especially includes young people. Why is that though? Why does youth participation matter? First of all, young people make up a huge part of the population in Europe. Young people have unique insights, experiences, and ideas that the older generations will not have, because you are leading different lives at the same time. Second, many decisions being made today will affect your future and your present. From climate policies to education reforms to digital rights. They all affect your present and your future, and they will affect your future for a longer time than people who are adults already. But here's the issue and the challenge that we are all facing. Youth participation in formal democratic processes, like voting, for example, is low. And that doesn't happen because young people do not care, as many say. But a lot of them feel that their voices aren't heard, that politics are something distant from them, and lots of politicians and systems are corrupt. And lastly, a big issue is that young people do not know how to get involved. That is not only those three things do not apply just for young people. It's also for older people. And it's an issue we're facing in democracy. But the only way to face those challenges is to get more active and get involved. Because when young people especially participate in democracy, the results are really powerful. I have one example for this. I don't know if you remember, because it's a few years back, but when Ireland was discussing on having a referendum on same-sex marriage and abortion rights, young people were the key in those campaigns. They were organizing, they were debating, they were informing their communities and their parents and their friends, and they were really the catalyst for that big change that happened in Ireland, where there was a positive vote on same-sex marriage and abortion rights. So the European Union really understands that youth participation is a key to keeping democracy alive and thriving. And we can see the outcome of it because they have come up with a European Youth Strategy. It's a project that is running from 2019 till 2027. And it focuses on three core words and three core words. Number one, engage. So how to get people, young people, involved in democratic life, how to keep them interested, how to find those things that make them feel something and make them passionate. Number two, empower. So how can we support young people in gaining the skills and the knowledge and the confidence that is needed for them to be more active? And number three, connect. Another important factor in participation is the ability to collaborate in your local level, but also across borders, across sectors, throughout different countries, because we are talking about a European youth strategy, so it's not just what is happening in one country or one region, but what happens throughout Europe. I want to stress again that you don't have to wait until you're 18 or until the age where it's legal to vote in your country in order to make a difference. Because civic life starts with awareness and with action. And that can happen already in your school or in your neighborhood. So let's see how we can do that. How can you participate? There are many ways you can take part. That can depend on your interests, the time you have available, and your skills. What are you good at? And I wanted to start thinking about this in three levels, from your personal to the local and to the EU and national level. So let's start. How you can get more active in democratic life, in your personal level. First, start educating yourself. You can watch videos, read articles, follow the news, and even follow youth-led accounts, so you can really get information that is applicable to your to where you are right now. Then you can reflect on your own values, what is important and what matters to you. And the last thing you can do on a personal level is to talk to friends, talk to your schoolmates, talk to family, talk to your teachers about current issues, and start understanding and seeing things from multiple perspectives. Then, if we go up a level to your local level, what can you do to get more active there? Maybe there is a school council or a youth council where you are, and you can join it as an active member of the council or even as a viewer at the beginning. You could partner with local NGOs or community groups and start volunteering or following their activities. And lastly, you can organize a small event like a cleanup of a park or a beach in your area, or even start creating an awareness campaign for an issue that you think matters. Here I have Um, an example for my local area. I am in Samos, Greece, and here we have in the secondary school we have a group of students that took part in a media competition, and they decided to create like a photo campaign to talk about the issue of violence and abuse of kids and teenagers. And I think their poster, their picture is really meaningful, and it gives a lot of emotions because it's coming from the same target group as their awareness campaign. What other options do you have to be more active? Number one is to engage in activism. As we said, you can organize or join campaigns, follow protests, or build awareness days. As young people, you're uniquely equipped in the digital sphere, more than any other generation that has come before you. And you can use those digital platforms that you know so well to work on online activism. For example, you could make TikTok videos that can be shared with millions of people. You can write blogs or film interviews as vlogs, or create beautifully visually infographics and share them on Instagram or any other platform that you know, probably better than I do. Another thing that I will mention again is volunteering. Volunteering can help you get in touch with people that you may not have met before in your life because you're from different backgrounds. And it can help you get experience and confidence working in activism and projects. You can do that if you have a local NGO or another local initiative, or you can even join a political youth wing if you find a party that really speaks to you and resonates with your own values. And lastly, maybe the most advanced of them all is that you can create your own initiative. Maybe you have always wanted to make your own podcast where you interview other young people and students about what their issues are and what makes them sorry, cat. And last, and maybe the most advanced of them all, is to create your own initiative. Maybe you always wanted to have your own podcast where you take interviews from local leaders or other students and talk about what is important for them and what makes them worried about the world. Or you have other friends and acquaintances that are really into art and want to be creative, and you all work together to create a little zine where you can develop art on a certain kind of issue. Or as I said before, you can start with something small, gather together a few people and clean up an area in your city or in your town. And as I mentioned, digital platforms already. We talked about a bit more about on the awareness that is really necessary when we talk about informing people and getting them to join us. But there's another really useful goal that we can use digital platforms like change.org or poll.is or Decidem. Those allow citizens and young people, of course, to propose ideas, gather support, and even influence policy, because getting a petition and getting a lot of people to sign it can be something that really has a specific outcome at the end. And now that we're in this digital action discussion, I also wanted to bring another example. Back in 2020, when in Poland there were lots of women's rights protests organized, we know that young people used different digital platforms like Instagram and Telegram to organize those massive, really, demonstrations. And because of those tools, they could do that safely and effectively and gather a lot of people in a much easier way than having flyers or posters around. And also maybe more climate friendly, environmentally friendly. And now that I started talking about this example, I wanted to share and celebrate some other real examples of youth initiatives and young people taking the lead. And we start with, I think, the most well-known, and for me, the definition when I think of youth participation, and that is the initiative Fridays for Future, which was started by Greta Thunberg in 2018. And it became a global youth-led movement, started from Greta striking from her school every Friday for the environment. And this movement has grown exponentially and mobilized millions of young people throughout the world, not just Europe, throughout the world, getting them to demand urgent climate action by them striking from school and demonstrating in public. And I think it was really impactful for the young people that were taking part, and hopefully it has created a change as well throughout the world. Staying on the topic of climate justice and the issue of environmental protection, we go from the north to the south, and we go to Portugal, where we have the initiative of a Youth for Climate. That's where a group of 6 Portuguese young people filed a groundbreaking lawsuit against 32 European countries at the European Court of Human Rights. And they argued that there is insufficient climate action. That was at the time, and probably still is at the time, the reality, violates their human rights. And through their legal action, they tried to compel the governments to align their policies with the Paris Agreement and make more steps towards sustainability and environmental protection. And now from Portugal, we go to Germany, and we go to Berlin, where I wanted to share about the initiative called Queerberg Collective. So this youth-led initiative is based in Berlin's Kreuzberg district, and it provides safe spaces and psychological support for LGBTQ plus refugees and immigrants. This collective fosters community integration and addresses the unique issues and challenges faced by queer individuals that are in displacement. I bet you can think of and come up with more examples, and I hope you can. Coming from Greece, we have a long standing tradition, I would say, of school strikes, especially when students need to ask for educational reforms, from changing the curriculum to getting more teachers in schools to even getting materials, which, to be honest, like, it shouldn't even be a question, but there is. So a lot of times we have schools striking, closing down, because the students themselves are demanding what should be there from the beginning. But we also have like smaller initiatives like neighborhood cleanups. We do a lot of beach cleanups since I am from an island here. And we also have seen a lot of municipal youth forums and spaces where young people can talk with decision makers and share their points of view. Why am I sharing all these examples? Number one is to see that it can be possible to make a change, to create impact, to find other people that are interested in what you are interested in, what you are passionate with. And number two is because I think being more active in democracy really, the one thing necessary is to find out what moves you. So I want you at this point to think about, what are you passionate about? What is this issue, this topic that really matters to you? Is it the environment? Is it human rights? Is it maybe mental health of young people that is also after COVID impacted a lot? That topic, that issue, the challenge of the world and of young people is can be your entry point to civic participation. It will make everything much more meaningful when you pick something that matters to you, but it can also help when dealing with challenges. Because let's be honest, participation is not always easy. It takes, as we said, a lot of time, a lot of effort from you. And there are a lot of barriers that you may face. What can those be? I think for thinking also from me when I was younger, the number one thing is that there is really a lack of access to decision makers. As a young person, you couldn't just visit the municipality or meet the mayor or even meet the person responsible for the education in your area. And to get to them, it was quite difficult. And also a lot of times you would be dismissed. And there's another barrier that comes and links here very much. And it's adultism. This idea that young people are not mature enough, or they don't know enough, or they are not skilled enough, or they don't understand issues as well as adults. So this experience of being dismissed due to age can really be something that stops young people from participating and getting involved. And then there is the issue of limited resources or skills. It's true that there are certain things that you might not know how to do yet. You might not know how even the system itself works, because you may not have learned about it in your education, or learned about it really in practical terms that you can actually use. Or you might not have access to a space where you can gather with other like-minded youth. You might not have access to materials, technological materials as well. And then the last, but certainly not least, and something we talked already about, is this feeling that my voice doesn't matter or that I won't be heard. And that, I have to say, and all of the above, it's not unique to youth participation. It actually, those are barriers for most of the people in taking an active part in democracy. But I have also good news. Those barriers can be fought and they can be dismantled. And I have some tips for you, some options. Number one that I would mention is mentorship. There are certain programs that pair youth with more experienced leaders, and the mentorship can help you a lot and support you a lot, because it can be, of course, really inspiring to see other people doing what you're dreaming of doing or doing something a bit similar. But when you create this mentoring relationship and you understand the person behind the achievement, that person can also support you and give you a roadmap on how to get where you want to go, or help you with an issue that you're facing, because they probably have been through it already. Then number two, and I have to say I'm biased for this, something that can really help us, especially in the skills issue that we talked before, is training. There are many ways to develop your skills and acquire new knowledge. And one of my recommendation is to look into Erasmus Plus programs, because Erasmus Plus offers a lot of opportunities for you to learn activism, to learn how to create your own project, and from the beginning to the end, how to advocate as young people, different methods, different tools you can use. And the most important thing is that you don't just learn this sitting in your room like you're probably doing now, but you are learning this in a group of like-minded young people coming from lots of different backgrounds and countries. So you can also have this experience of collaboration across borders. Then we have another thing that can really help with fighting those barriers, which is building peer networks. Because learning from each other, learning from other young people can really improve confidence, and also improve the feeling of solidarity that we are all of us in this together. What you can do, you can find a youth group and join, or even start your own. Because really, when we work together in groups, in small communities, things feel less scary, and we really have more strength and more power because of doing this together. Then, one last thing when we talk about barriers. It's very, very probable that you will hit resistance from a lot of different points. But my advice is, don't give up. Find allies, build those relationships and connection, share your stories, gather data, gather information, and persist. And you will get the impact that you wish for. So I already talked a bit about, but I want to dig a bit deeper about different tools and opportunities that can help you get from inspired to involved. And what are those? We already talked about the European Youth Dialogue, and I also want to add the youth goals. Those were 11 priorities that were created by young people, for young people, and that are guiding policy at the European level. You can find those youth goals and learn more about them and get inspiration for your vision. Then, I have two different European projects that can be of use for you and can be helping you achieve what you dream of. Number one is, as I mentioned before, the European Solidarity Corps. That's a program where you can volunteer abroad or even at your home country on meaningful community projects. That can help you learn more how to do it, so you can even build your own project when you come back home. And the other project I wanted to talk, and we're going to talk more about later in other videos, is the Erasmus Plus Youth Participation Activities. This is a project where you can get funding for a local project that is really affecting your own community, to create maybe workshops and build campaigns for something that matters. Maybe you are lucky and where you are, your municipality has a youth information center. So I really encourage you to visit yours and find maybe some more local opportunities to help you get more involved. So, to wrap this session up, I want us to remember that democracy isn't just a system. It can be a verb. It can be something we all do, not just something we live under. You don't need to be a politician, or you don't even need to become a politician to be political. You just need to find something to care about and act on it. So I want to leave you with a small reflection. I want you to think, and we already, hopefully you already thought a bit about it, but I want you to think even more. What issues make me feel something? So ask yourself, what is the thing that matters to me? What can I do today or this week to speak up or get involved? Who can I team up with? Because when young people lead, change can happen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope we all build vibrant, inclusive democracies together.